Hey there, my name is Adrian. I'm from Groundhogg, and today I am joined by Wagner dos Santos of the Wagner Agency. He's one of our esteemed certified partners. He's been in this game a really long time, and he's going to share a little bit about his experiences running what I think is a fairly efficient agency model. And he's made, I'm sure, a number of mistakes along the way, and had a number of wins. And he's been very gracious to share his time with us today and talk a little about those. So, Wagner, welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I usually say thanks for having me because I'm usually the guest. Thanks for coming on.
Well, I was going to say I'm honored to be on the show. So yes, thanks for having me. Sounds good.
This is weird for me because this is the first time you're actually like my first kind of like test case, because usually I'm the one going around to like doing shows, but
yes,
we need content to fill up our YouTube channel. So
yeah, exactly. No, that's great. I mean, seriously, I've always been a big fan of yours, and I was more than happy to be part of this.
Well, thanks for coming on. So you're one of our esteemed certified partners. You're an agency, and I know just from knowing you that there has been a journey from where you've been to where you are now, and I'd just love for you to just fill in those listing with where did you come from, and where are you now?
Oh, there's this galaxy that's about I'll be 53 on February 4th. So we'll give you the Cliff Notes version, because 53 years can be pretty long, especially since I started at the age of 17. So I started in the music business and had a fairly successful career for about 15 years in the music business.
Doing what?
I was what's called an A&R, artist and repertoire executive. So for those that don't know, that's usually, because I think that's usually the person who's out there scouting artists and helping to develop their career in the beginning, trying to convince them to go with your label versus all the millions of others that want them if you're going for a really popular artist. So those are the guys that are out late, 3 o'clock in the morning at the clubs, and they get to roll in at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon the next day.
Who's like the coolest person you met?
Oh, easy. Henry Rollins. I don't know if you know Black Flag or the Rollins band, but Henry Rollins for sure. I worked. I had a label of my own from the age of 16 all the way to my 20 years old, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of making it up as I went along.
As most do.
School for it, yeah. Trial by error. Fake it till you make it. All that stuff.
I don't think anybody knows what they're doing at any given point.
We think we do, but then you reflect.
You
back
look
and
back,
say, no,
and you're like,
right? Yeah, it's like, oh man, I really didn't know if I could go back. But I was born and raised in New York City. I lived in Manhattan at the time, and I was fortunate enough to be on the Upper West Side, just blocks away from from Lincoln Center and the Performing Arts Library. So I used to go in there and used to go through books and books and books of record contracts and all that. So I really kind of self-taught myself. I didn't just totally wing it. But I got the attention of an early kind of independent label that was opening up called Imago. And it sounded really interesting because the president of the label, Chris Ellis, him and Chris Wright were the ones that created Chrysalis Records under EMI many years ago. Actually, they sold it to EMI, and then they did whatever they wanted to do with their earnings. He decided to start another label. So he was responsible for Billy Idol and Jethro Tull and a bunch of others. So it sounded really cool. And first day on the job, I learned who all the artists are and those that I'm going to be a part of and working with. And first, probably the first artist I met, like really met out of our whole roster, was Henry Rollins. And for anyone watching or listening to this, Henry Rollins was part of a seminal punk band called Black Flag. For anybody that likes, punk music and
If people
history,
haven't actually listened to the music, they've definitely heard the name. Like I feel
they've
like
definitely, right? At least they've
right,
heard
like
Black
there's like
Flag,
enough pop culture like movies out there that like mention it or like play it
right?
that there's at least some sort of like passing. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know, they learned of Henry Rollins later in life when he started doing spoken word and writing some books. He's quite a figure. Well, his whole massive self, if you go Google him and you see what it looks like, his massive self was in the office with me one day and introduced himself. He said, hey, how you doing? I'm Hank, Henry Rollins, and you're Wagner, right? Yeah. And yeah, so he starts chatting. Said, "Yeah, so my story, I was in this few bands in LA, and then I was in this band we called it Black Flag, and then and I was looking at him like, dude, Black Flag, yes, I know, and you're talking about it like it's a garage band." So that was probably the most interesting for the start of the conversation, and then we went much deeper, and I started to learn that that big tough guy act he puts out there, he's really just a sweet, like really nice guy. I mean, he invited me numerous times to meet him up at his house in LA and work out with him. And I was like, you're way too advanced for me. I don't know if I can, if I can get there.
That's so
So,
cool. And it's so funny that almost like 9 out of 10 people that I know like in digital marketing or in WordPress like all started in music, and that's just so
right.
weird. Like my
Well,
dad
yeah.
started in music,
Yep.
and I'm a big musician. I did a lot of trumpet and violin throughout the years, and I know like Pippin
Yeah.
and Matt and a lot of people just started out in music. It's weird how we all end up in tech one way or the other.
Well, I thought it was kind of weird too. And now looking back, I see that there's so many similarities. Having, especially being in a marketing agency or advertising agency, or whether it's a digital marketing agency, the structure, because it's creative and because of the departments that we have, it's very similar to the departments you have at a record label. You have production, you have publicity, you have radio promo, or at least you did back in the day. You don't really have that in an agency, but you had a lot of the same structure, and you had a traffic person and all that. So I fit into it a lot easier than I thought it would.
Speaking of
So
which, how did
mhm.
that where did that change happen?
Yeah.
Where did you go from successful A&R to agency? Where did that occur?
you know, um, I I saw the writing on the wall, but I didn't know it was going to happen so soon. Come 1999, 2000, the music industry changed, and artists were fighting for the longest time that they felt, record labels were, stealing their money. They weren't getting enough royalties, and they wanted to be in control of everything. They're publishing, and well, they got what they wanted, and it all happened back then with a company called Napster, and Napster really sort of pioneered the digital download. And then, of course, there was a lot of pirating going on too, and from other sources, and so long story short, Napster made some agreements, and then little by little, we got to where we are today, where digital download is just a thing. And the problem with that, streaming, yeah, and the problem with that is that all the record stores started to close. And then as the record stores closed, you started seeing people getting laid off at all the record companies. And then a lot of the independents either got bought for their catalog, or they just disappeared completely. So I looked at it and said, well, it's time to reinvent myself because I don't know if this career, and I know people that I worked with back in the day that they're still in the business, but it's different. Like one of my friends who I worked with, he's at Orchard Distribution, and but he's in sales and distribution. That really wasn't my thing. I was more creative, and I was in the alternative rock area and genre. So yeah, I decided that I needed to take about a year off and just really think about what I was going to do next. And my girlfriend at the time was she was working in experiential marketing with a company called GMR Marketing that's part of Omnicom. And she said, you should come out and, do some stuff with us. And, they bring you in. And so I started, on the field, just kind of, trying it out. I was like, wow, this experiential marketing stuff is really cool. And long story short, as typically happens with me, I'm always very hungry and I've always been very ambitious. So it's very hard for me to slow down, which I should. I want to consume more and more. So I started growing up the ranks. I went from that to controlling a region, to controlling a national tour, to then moving into accounts, and then eventually leaving that agency to go to another big shop called Momentum Worldwide, which is part of Interpublic Group, IPG. So that's where I got my start.
Was music business, and now we have you inside sort of the ranks of much larger marketing agencies, people doing the Fortune 500 stuff and the Super Bowl campaigns and right. So
exactly.
That's not what you're doing now.
No. And I run an independent agency, and it's interesting because a lot of people that end up going to the bigger shops start at an independent, and I did it the other way around. I started at really big, thousands of people worldwide, agencies, to then starting my own. I started my own agency. This is my second. So my first one was called Beloved, and I started it in 2004. And that agency was a split between what's called sometimes traditional marketing or advertising and experiential marketing, because I had that strong background. And so
what does that mean? Like are we talking like billboards, phone books, like
the experiential part?
The traditional part.
Oh, the traditional. Yeah, it would be your out of home, your billboards, like you said, newspaper, magazines, radio, what we call terrestrial radio, because you do have streaming radio, right? So terrestrial radio, terrestrial, TV, broadcast, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we did, and print campaigns, stuff like that. We did that, but we were really strong in experiential marketing. In fact, the larger brand work we did was highly experiential. We had we had an account with Coca Cola for a few years, and one of our biggest, really biggest case study, if you will, of what we did with Coca Cola was when we launched or helped launch the Coke Zero initiative across the country. And that was happening.
I'm sure that's a whole hour within itself.
Oh yeah.
Talking about, because I knew that because you had mentioned it before, which is why I really wanted you to come on. Because I just think that like level of experience, just like beyond what most of us would probably ever like even like aspire to get at. Like a lot of us are just happy. It's like, I got my 25 clients. It's like, no, I want to go out and work the Coke, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, they educated me more than I educated them. I learned so much about branding from Coca Cola. Whether you like the brand or you don't, they really understand branding and marketing, and it was an honor, And I
cried at like a Coca Cola commercial at Christmas this year. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Well, the bottom line is they're not selling their product. They're selling the outcome of their product. They're selling happiness, reunion of people, right? All these things, lifestyle, which it just so happens their product is a part of or helps facilitate. So yeah, they're pretty smart people. And I think the campaign I was running at that time, which was my first, was also running in Canada at the same time, but I wasn't running the Canadian initiative.
Mm-hmm. So that's a huge, that's a big name to like tuck in your belt to like pull out at a later date. Right. So
for sure.
We had experiential marketing, we have traditional marketing. There's so much. Let's talk about what kind of like most of probably you listening are at, what stage you're at is you're doing the digital marketing, building websites, you're helping small businesses, you're doing CRM or Groundhogg implementation, you're doing that stuff. Let's talk about your first foray into that, and when did that take place? Was that pre, like, was that still back when like WordPress was like really old, or was it more recent?
Well, again, thanks to my age and because I've been in tech for most of my life as a parallel to music, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I ran a couple what we call BBSs, and one of them was very similar to CompuServe and Delphi and Prodigy, and all those companies are out there. So for the younger ones that don't know this, that was kind of the beginning of all this pre-web internet. And so as soon as the web became available publicly, I built my first website, I think in '94, and completely HTML, right? Just plain HTML.
Well, there was nothing else.
No, there wasn't anything else really. No, it was either that or write something in BASIC, I guess. But so I started that way, and then as I transitioned, like we talked about, into advertising, the agency I started that I did have that Coca Cola account with was really still a small agency, including myself. It was 12 of us at the agency. So I went from these big shops to really something more independent. And
well, that seems small in comparison. I guess it's all relative,
a little bit,
right?
a little bit, right? Well, small enough. Well, small
Yeah.
enough that they came out to meet us because they wanted to make sure we were a stable enough company to handle a multi-million-dollar account.
I'm sure.
So so it's tough when you're a little smaller. But so the agency that I run now, which is the Wagner Agency, that one that I spoke of, I sold, merged with two other independents, and we became about 40 people strong. And that merger, unfortunately, wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. And after about a couple of years, I left, and I actually went to work for another agency, another independent agency that was struggling to build, and they were just a 5-person shop, and I helped them bring in new accounts and rework their proposals and RFP process to now they're like a 30-person shop, and
Wow.
they're in a much bigger location. So I felt proud of that. I wasn't really looking to start an agency again after my previous experience, and but I was getting kind of miserable at the agency I was at because of my relationship with, unfortunately, the owner president, which I don't have to go into, but it was kind of a toxic environment. And so
partnerships can be tough sometimes.
It was difficult.
It's not always a perfect fit.
Yeah. No, and in this situation, this was after the partnership. This was the agency I worked for. So I was really just an employee. I had no equity in it.
Yeah.
And I was told in the beginning that, hey, you do whatever you want to do with this place, treat it as it's yours. And then later I started getting tucked away in the background, like, hey, don't talk to the press, don't talk to, and I'm like, what's going on? So I started this agency in 2016, just about a month after I left the other one. And I didn't know if I wanted to start another agency again, because this is my 6th company, perhaps, since I was 17 years old that I've owned and operated. And I know what it's like when you're starting something from the ground up. If you got, some rich friends or rich family, that's a whole different story. But if you have to start from zero and build, I know the pain you go through. So it's like, oh no, I know what it's going to be like. I'm going to have to do this again. Can I do it? And apparently I'm in the 5-year mark. So I guess I could.
Doing something right.
I'm doing something right. But I'll tell you what, my staff knows this very well. I tell them this agency only has one direction to go, but up, because I'm not doing this all over again.
This is it. We're done after this. Like if it doesn't work out, doing something else. Like
yes, some of you guys are young. You'll have other adventures maybe, but this is my last hurrah. So
we're getting it done. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're a smaller agency. In fact, this one's even smaller. We're down to about 10 people, including myself, full-time. And I really do feel we're going to expand this year. The last 2 years, for obvious reasons, were not
ideal.
They weren't ideal. That's a good word. So I do feel positive that we're going to make some inroads this year. And probably, I would imagine I could see us going up to 15, 20 and being at a good spot. After that, I really don't know if we grow further or not. That's to be seen. but we're capable of handling everything that we do handle and all our clients. And so it's I, having had the two experiences of a large shop and a smaller one, I love an independent agency because I feel that, especially for those that work at the agency, I can see that they have the experience that they would never get at a bigger shop, because they have their hands on brand work from the very beginning to the implementation, where if they worked at a big shop, they'd work on just like one minutia, like, hey, I'm on the Virgin account. Oh, cool. What do you do? Well, I work on these POP displays in certain stores. It's like, oh, not the commercials? Is that? No, that's another group that does that. But here, you work on everything. You can say that, yes, I did work on this account, and you see that was my idea, so I see it through their eyes, and that makes me happy,
So given that you've been in so many different worlds around it, and given that you're at your 5-year mark and everything, I would love to know what your preferred method for billing people is, because that is by far one of like the most difficult parts of being an agency to get right. And sometimes there is no right answer, but at least to get it to a point where you can have a client and they can be a total pain in the butt, but you still walk away with comfortable margins. Like, that's a tricky balance. Right. And I'd love to know kind of like how you've perfected that.
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Because the agency that I worked for about 3 years just before starting this one, that was one of the things I tackled for them, because they were completely project-based. And the problem, there are pros and cons with everything, but the problem with project-based is, you can't really forecast what your future is going to look like. And that gets a little dicey, especially when you have other, people on payroll, and you're wondering if you're going to be able to make payroll the next, week or month. So that's very nerve-wracking, and I wouldn't want to be in that situation. So they were in that situation, and that was impeding their growth, as I could see. So one of the things I did is I moved them into a retainer model, and they were very scared of that. Say, oh, we tried that before, and people didn't like it. And I said, well, why? And I came to find out that it was the way that they approached that model. And so the approach that I had set up for them is even a little different than our approach. I think ours is even more advanced. We have a retainer model, which is our preferred. And I usually tell new clients that it will be your preferred as well, because you're going to get so much more out of us than if we were project-based. Because you look at it this way, and this is how I explain it to them. In a project-based model, we're order takers, and we're just waiting for you to tell us what's next. But if you really have some challenges that you need tackled, and you need some brain power from an agency, you're not going to get that project-based. You're going to have to be the one who figures it out and tells the agency what to do. On the other hand, on a retainer base, on a monthly basis, we're always thinking of you, and we're always coming up with ideas and strategies, and you have more use and resources of the agency. So
you have your finger on the pulse of their business.
Absolutely. And you make the investment as an agency, because you know that you have them for, you hope, for the long haul. And that's a whole nother story, because no matter what your contract is, clients can leave at any time if they want to. We make our contract simple, because why make it complicated to need to have lawyers around? Because at the end of the day, if you want to go, you want to go, and we're not going to take you to court about it. So you have to earn their business.
Yeah, so
constantly.
I mean, you got to put in the work, right? If you don't put in the work, then you can't exactly blame them for wanting to go elsewhere.
No, because believe it or not, and I think you've talked about this in one of your videos. I think I might have caught where you were talking about earning their business. I think so. And the thing is, there are approximately 14,000 agencies across the U.S. 14,000, and everybody wants to make business. Everyone wants to do business, right?
Yeah.
So it's very competitive out there. So believe it, that your clients are always getting stuff from other agencies. And sometimes they may think the grass is greener on the other side
They
if
always
you
come
don't
back.
perform. Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
If you're doing a good job, they always come back.
Correct. And then it's a question if you want them back. But the to answer your question, the retainer model is preferred, and we do what's called, which is different than the previous agency, a value-based retainer. So the difference is, in a value-based retainer model, you set a monthly price for your services, and it's not based necessarily on hours that you estimate, although there's a little bit of that, but it's really based on the value that you believe you're bringing to the client. So for example, I've been in business in general for a very long time. I've been in advertising marketing for well over 20 years, and I have a lot of other talented people at the agency that have that kind of pedigree. So we bring a lot of value, so you can't expect us to charge what some freelancer is going to charge, right?
Yeah.
And
sure.
you should understand that value that you're going to get. So we do that, and then unlike some retainers, people hear retainers and they think, oh, okay, so I'm billing hours, and then at the end of the month or towards the end of the month, they're going to say, oh, you're starting to run out of hours. Do you need some more hours? I cut that out because I learned through experience that account managers and executives that I worked with spent most of their day arguing with their clients about hours, about why did this take 0.25 to do, and why did this take 0.75 to do.
It really detracts away from what was accomplished, because it totally brings the focus of, look at this great thing that we did, why did this great thing that you did take so long?
Yeah, it kills the relationship completely, because what I tell people all the time is, you want to be the client's investment. You don't want to be a line item on their expense list.
I think that's a great way to frame it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so taking that equation out, we have clients. I've one of our clients has been with us for almost 10 years, and they followed me from another agency, the other agency I was at, and they're hopefully not going anywhere. They seem to be very happy, and we have a great relationship, and we understand them really well, and they're happy with what they're getting from us. And I tell my team all the time that the secret to keeping a client like that is you can never grow complacent. You always have to think of them as a new client you just got, and when you're presenting to them, you're pitching to them as if it's the first time you pitched, with that same vigor and energy.
So quickly, within the context of your current agency, is there any particular project or client that you're particularly proud of, that you've done really good work for?
Everybody.
If they had to choose one, you're like, that was a total win, and like that was our idea, like what would that be?
Proud of everything. Let's see. I hate to single out any one client, because certainly I wouldn't want any of my other clients to think that they're not as
getting
important, because right, and they are. I would say probably the company that we have worked with for nearly 10 years is probably the one I was use as an example, but there's history there beyond the others. And we've had the opportunity to do some really good work with them. I have no problem saying their name. The name is June, and they are a voice over IP business telephone company, like your Ring Centrals, your Nextivas, and all that, except they don't do residential. They strictly do business. And we have helped them evolve over time, not only with their brand, because they used to be called Voice Ring. And then as we saw the direction that they wanted to go with, cloud powered communications, we felt that this word ring was antiquated. Phones ringing, it's now a digital world. We thought, let's embrace that and come up with a name that has this I don't know, this
new
inviting
age.
Yeah, this inviting personality, something that's approachable. That was the word I was looking for. So we named it June, Joon, okay, not like the month. And so one of the things that we've done very recently in their campaign is we've really honed in on what makes them different, because, most of the time you don't want to be playing the price game, with clients, or having your clients do that, because at some point someone is going to outprice you and you're going to go broke and close. It's usually the case. So you have to have another USP, another unique selling proposition. And so in their case, it was customer service. Well, everybody says they do have great customer service, right? So how do you really do something with that? Well,
There's a great
we
analogy
created
for that.
a brand for a campaign called RI, Real Intelligence. So RI is the antithesis to AI. And we've played this in our campaign where, sure, AI is great technology, we embrace it, but while you have chatbots and all this computerized stuff. So what's really great about the RI campaign is that it emphasizes the company's unique selling proposition that yes, they have great customer service, but it's more than that. They have a real hands-on approach. They'll go on site if they need to. The actual partners will be involved, and we even use the partners' photos in some of the campaigns with their direct numbers associated with each person to demonstrate how much you can interact with the company. No other company can do that, and all the other companies in their field are trying to sell discounts and all this kind of stuff. And we're just saying, hey, this is a great company. It's a solid company. And last but not least, the newest aspect of our targeting in this campaign is we determined, and the client agreed with this, that their niche is small business. Let the others go for enterprise level and all that stuff. But most we saw a figure in our research data that there's this large chunk of small businesses across the country that are ignored. And this is good for everybody who's watching or listening to this, because we talked about Coca Cola. That's all great, but there are tons of small businesses, and more opening every day, that need an agency. They need service providers, and they're being overlooked. So
Everybody wants the Coca Cola account, right?
Yeah. But
there's so many people fighting over that one thing, while there's just tons of business.
Right.
Which
could be even more lucrative too.
Yeah.
Because we were one of 11 agencies on Coca Cola, by the way. So we weren't the only agency, but you could be the only agency with others, or not, or maybe you're a niche agency. But really, the whole targeting of small businesses to position them as, if you're a small business, this is who you go to. We feel really good about that.
That's so valuable. So let's start wrapping it up. So number one, use Groundhogg, right?
I never heard of it.
Well, I'd hope that's what we're.
Oh, that's what's on your shirt.
Today.
Yeah.
Just quickly.
Yeah.
What has Groundhogg enabled you to do in your agency that you feel that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise?
Most people who are watching this probably don't know me, but if they did, they would know that I'm extremely sincere and blunt, and I'm not going to blow smoke because Adrian is interviewing me. I mean, if I really thought there were problems with this product, I would say so. I don't know how I ended up finding out about Groundhogg, but when I did, my mind was just blown, because I had worked with a lot of the other companies that I won't mention that are in the marketing automation and inbound marketing space. And one of the many problems that exist, besides pricing and cost, was really the fact that you were never truly integrated. In some cases, perhaps, but you had to be on their platform. With Groundhogg, we were able to return to WordPress. Our site was on another platform before that was part of one of those other companies. So we moved back to WordPress where we wanted to be. And Groundhogg, we saw how it just fit in to the entire ecosystem, and that's what it's meant to do. Because it's I got to say it was a brilliant concept, and it still is brilliant, because if you're going to be running any type of campaigns, funnels, so forth, to drive traffic to your website, isn't it great that the product is already in your website? So we thought that was great. And it's been there's a lot of talk out there about and I know you have a variety of different customers, but for agencies, there's a lot of talk about there that, inbound marketing doesn't work for agencies. And I got to tell you, that's not true. Inbound marketing is actually what marketing is today. You can call it whatever you want, but everybody's doing inbound marketing. It's just an approach, a manner in which you use it. So the way we use Groundhogg may be different than others, but we utilize it definitely to outline our pipeline, to automate the various contact forms or prospecting forms into our funnels. But at the same time, we don't automate everything. There's a moment in which a real person is writing an email to you or calling you, because
I think that's a big part.
Yeah.
I think a lot, and I'm gonna quickly just interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Because I work with a lot of agencies, and a lot of organizations similar to mine promise that automate everything. You'll never have to work from a laptop on a beach somewhere, right? That's the dream. But if you're an agency and you're selling to real businesses that have real needs, at some point, human intervention is what is actually able to build the relationship. And agencies are all about relationships. And it's hard to build a genuine, sincere relationship if everything is automated.
I would even argue that it's not even limited to agencies, that all companies should be thinking this way, because at the end of the day, even with your best programmed, thought through funnels and emails,
Chatbot,
the chatbot, people eventually are going to be able to tell that this is automated and it's not you, because there's going to be at some point when there's going to be an odd timing of an email or something, or something's going to be just off. And if the person is smart enough, they can tell, oh, you're really not sending this to me. I'm on your list. So I'm just like everybody else. So the sooner that you can get in touch with them, but also still keep them in the system, because nurturing is still very important. As long as you're also interacting with them as a person, they're going to probably even want to read those emails more, because they know you as a company. And now they want to get some of that rich insight you're sending them,
Well, I think that anyone who's not an agency already listening this should definitely give you a call. I think you've made a pretty good case for why you've been in this business and why you've been so successful. So for those people who do want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Well, as you can see, we do a podcast and we live stream it. It's called Wagner Live. The agency is called the Wagner Agency. Wagner Live because we do the show live, and it streams on Facebook and YouTube. So right behind me is where my actual office, my desk is, my office. And you can reach us at you can go to our website, which is thewagneragency.com. Wagner spelled like Wagner. It is Wagner, but it's Wagner because it's a German pronunciation. That's a long story. I won't get into today. But you can do that, and you're more than welcome to email me directly. And my email address is Wagner, WAGNER, at thewagneragency.com.
Well, I want to thank you, Wagner, for joining me today and being so willing and forthcoming and sharing your experiences and what makes you different and what's allowed you to be so successful. Again, for anyone who wants to reach out to Mr. Wagner, you can go to, I know it's not Mr. Wagner, it's Mr. Dos Santos, but anyone who wants to reach out to Wagner.
Not even Mr. You can call me Vog. Whatever you want to go.
Anyone who wants to reach out to Vog, you can also find him on the Groundhogg Certified Partner Directory on groundhogg.io. and find all of his information and booking information there. And you can drop him a message in our Facebook group if you're a Groundhogg customer and you're part of that. I want to thank everyone for coming today. And we're going to be doing more of these. We're going to be featuring more agencies and more of our certified partners. And we are going to be reaching out and speaking with a lot of our also small business customers and our e-commerce and our course creators. And we really want to showcase and give our people the opportunity to share their story of what makes them different and how they got to where they are today. So if you have a great story that you want to share and you feel that you have something to add to the Groundhog community, the business community, the digital marketing community, send an email to me personally, adrian@groundhog.io, subject line, my story, and just give me the gist. And if we feel like it's going to be a good fit and that, you know, our people are going to enjoy you on the call, then we're going to send you a booking link and we're just going to have a session just like this. So if that's something you're interested to, again, email my story to adrian@groundhog.io.
Adrian,
Thanks.
you see how the two of us are transparent and you know what I was talking about. You gave your personal, I gave my email too. You know, that's why your company is also very successful, because you know it's not a big corporate go through the system. You know, people can end up talking to you many times directly. So anyway.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it makes a huge difference when the person at the top is right down at the bottom.
Yep. Good way to
Keeping their ear to the ground. All right, that's it for us. Have a great one.
Thank you.